Keza McDonald, a former editor at Kotaku, as well as a former editor at IGN, who is now the editor for video games at The Guardian, wrote an article calling for game developers and publishers to condemn gamers who oppose the evil ideology of wokeness being injected into video games. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. This is over at The Guardian. Her headline is "The disturbing online misogyny of Gamergate has returned if it ever went away." While some of their language has changed, the sentiment of this latest aggressive movement is just as distressing. It's time for the games industry to stand up to it. Aggressive movement. It's literally a reaction to what people like you are doing, Keza. You are the aggressor, and we are reacting to your aggression. You know that this is going to be chock full of lies. What's interesting, though, is when she calls for publishers and developers to condemn gamers, I actually agree with her. I think that they should, so we know who they are, we know where they stand, we know that they indeed hate us, and we can choose to not give them our money, and they can go the way of Volition and Luminous Productions, which no longer exist following the release of Saints Row and Forspoken. But let's get into this here. She says, a few months ago, I wrote about a consulting agency, Sweet Baby Inc., that found itself at the center of a conspiracy theory. Aggrieved gamers on a Steam forum had erroneously concluded that this small agency was somehow mandating the inclusion of more diverse characters in games. Depressingly, but unsurprisingly, the result was a tremendous amount of targeted harassment towards the people who work at Sweet Baby and every journalist who reported on it, particularly the women. It was a disturbing echo of Gamergate, an online harassment campaign 10 years ago that initially sprung from the wild accusations of a game developer's vindictive ex-boyfriend. So chock full of lies. We have the receipts over here. I wrote this article up over at thatparkplace.com. I will have the link in the description below. But the idea that these people were being the subject of targeted harassment is just not true. It was actually Sweet Baby Inc. employees who were trying to harass the creator of the Steam curator group, Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, Cabrutus Rambo. We have Chris Kindred and Maya Kramer encouraging their followers to get the Steam curator list, documenting all games that Sweet Baby Inc. had worked on, shut down. On top of that, Kindred attempted to get Cabrutus Rambo's entire Steam account shut down. He was, which in my opinion is theft, trying to get Steam to shut down his account, things that he paid for that he no longer has access to. That is indeed theft. So Kindred obviously advocating for the theft of Cabrutus Rambo's games. But this is what he wrote. The Steam curator harassment group, Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, is led by this person, Cabrutus Rambo. Here's them trying to be slick so they don't get reported, even with the discriminatory language filed off. The group itself fails the code of conduct. Anyway, report the F out of this group and report the creator since he loves his account so much. So clearly trying to get Cabrutus Rambo's account stolen from him, trying to get his Steam curator list shut down. Maya Kramer did the same thing. She's also an employee of Sweet Baby Inc. She said this: sorry, no one thing has changed. The number of people who understand that spreading misinformation just lets them be racist in public with no consequence has increased dramatically. That has changed. Probably requires some fighting from those with authority, probably. So obviously accusing Cabrutus Rambo of being a racist there, and then calling for someone in authority to shut down the Steam curator list. She made it very clear that's exactly what she was talking about in a subsequent post. She says, for example, Steam doesn't have guidelines for curators. As far as I can tell, that would prevent someone from starting a curation group that focuses on, say, Sweet Baby Inc. and warns people to not buy games they're associated with, which could just list any game at all. So clearly targeting the Sweet Baby Inc. Detected. You can see that there in the screenshot. So, and then as far as this idea that Sweet Baby Inc. Is not trying to inject wokeness, that's absolutely not true. They clearly are. They do have a mandate that for inclusion of more diverse characters in games. That's literally on the company's website. You can read it right here. Our mission is to tell better, more empathetic stories while diversifying and enriching the video games industry. We aim to make games more engaging, more fun, more meaningful, and more inclusive for everyone. That's literally what the company's mission is. Yet we've got Keza McDonald here just outright lying. In fact, you have this interview here there's numerous interviews of the company's CEO, Kim Belair, making it very clear that's exactly what the company does. But yeah, this one here from 2021, she was speaking to Inclusion FX, and she discussed how the company came together and what its purpose was. She said, in 2018, one of my best friends and I, we teamed up and we found a company. The original desire was just to write together. We wanted to write with the two of us and a friend of ours, and we wanted to write games. But we realized that as a unit, we realized we were capable of doing for others what had not been done to us, which was to support us, empower us, to lift us up, to value our talent, and to help build our skills. And so today, what we do is writing, narrative design, story building, story breaking as our first and foremost. But on a secondary level, we work very hard to get marginalized talent into the industry, to protect them the way that we would want to have been protected, to lift them up, and to get them into an industry where they're too often shut out. Just absolutely not true. All these companies have DEI quotas. So these people are not being shut out. They're being actively hired. And if you've watched the new James O'Keefe video, he's pretty much confirming that the Walt Disney Company literally has these quotas in place. And it's clearly just based on your skin color in some cases. And you know that this is across the board in all of these entertainment companies. Nevertheless, Belair then goes and admits this. And basically, I think to take over in the hopes that some really dope people will be able to lead into a kind of new era for an industry that's been the same way too long. Well, what does that mean? Same way too long. Well, we know that you're a racist, Kim Belair, and that you discriminate against white people. So, because you have a previous comment, Game Developers Conference, where she made it very clear that she did not approve of a French character being included in a game with a company that she was consulting with. Instead, she wanted it to be a person of color. The company said, no, we already have this Frenchman. He's okay. And she's like, no, that's not good enough. We need to do better. It needs to be a person of color. Fortunately, that video game company told her no, but that's exactly what she believes. And that is what she wants to change in the industry. And she makes it very clear here. That's exactly what she wants to do. She wants to change the industry and take it over. So let's go back over here to what Keza had to say. So that's just literally like the first paragraph that we just went over. You can see just how many absolute lies that this woman here, formerly worked at Kotaku and IGN and now works at The Guardian, kind of know what their standards are and the people that they kind of employ. Just absolute people that just lie, and lie again. She goes on and says this: the language has changed a bit in the past decade. They used to be upset about SJWs. We still are. Social justice warriors are the same as woke cultists. They're pretty much synonyms in my opinion. And now they've taken issue with a different acronym, DEI. Very similar. Diversity, equality. It's not actually. It's usually equity, not equality, or just good old woke. Yeah, they're all kind of the same. But the sentiment from this group is the same. Games are for us and for us only. And if you want games to change or to tell stories outside the straightforward male-oriented power fantasies that we grew up with, then, well, that's not a lie. That's absolutely not a lie either. She's literally just trying to put words in people's mouths. I don't really see anyone actually saying that. It's usually just opposing DEI initiatives that are making characters ugly. The gameplay is trash. And the narrative is usually pushing some kind of gay, woke, communist ideologies. In fact, we will try to aggressively harass you out of this space entirely. That's not true either. We're trying to put an end to your woke ideology, and that's what we are trying to get out of the game space. And we hope that you will come to that conclusion yourself. And we pray that you do. At least I do. She goes on and says, unfortunately, the anti-woke campaigning has not let up much in the intervening months, led by a coterie of the usual grifters. They have taken issue with, in no particular order, the fact that Aphrodite, the literal goddess of love, is not hot enough in Supergiant's Hades 2. I don't think that is what people have been taking issues with. They were pointing out the hypocrisy that people like Alyssa Mercanti were talking about how gorgeous and attractive Hades is compared to, or Aphrodite is in that Hades 2 game, compared to her attacks on characters like Eve in Stellar Blade. And we were pointing out that the only reason why they approve of characters like Aphrodite in Hades 2 being beautiful is because it pushes the gay agenda, or is a company that approves of their gay agenda. So that's also a lie. Female characters in recent games all have square jaws and masculine bodies. Yes, that is absolutely accurate because that's exactly what they are doing. There are numerous examples of this. It's not hard to find this. The journalist gave the recent PS5 game Stellar Blade, pictured below, bad reviews because its female characters are too hot. Note they didn't. The game has a Metacritic score of 81. That too many games feature DEI haircut. So let's actually jump over here to this Stellar Blade piece here, because she does indeed say this, but we do know that IGN France actually did go after the attractiveness of Eve. This article written by Ben Sola said this: the design of the game, particularly its characters, highlights an obvious bias. We're going to smash the alien, but if we can do it while pleasing these gentlemen, that's a bonus. And the result is not really a success. It's not new, and other games have chosen to highlight the strengths of their female characters. But where Bayonetta stands out with an iconic character design, a 2B from Nier Automata inspires an entire generation of cosplayers, Eve from Stellar Blade is just bland. A doll sexualized by someone you would think has never seen a woman. Now, this isn't obviously a review. It was a preview of the game, but that is indeed what was happening here. In fact, IGN France actually retracted this and issued an apology. And you can see here, this is the apology right here. Recently, IGN France produced and published a preview of Stellar Blade containing an offensive passage that should never have been kept. The text has now been edited, and here's our official apology to the Shift Up Corporation studio staff. So again, another lie mixed in with the truth. But this is what these people do. They give you a little bit of truth, and then they give you giant big lies to try and brainwash you and get you to buy into their communist, Marxist, woke ideologies. So she goes on and talks about DEI haircuts. That's a fun one to interpret. It's really not. It's literally like the shaved head on the side. It's literally a mental illness haircut. It's really not hard to see that one, and easy to interpret. Once you see that, you just know it's going to have all kinds of like degeneracy in the game usually, and that character is going to be absolutely insufferable. And she goes on to say that Ubisoft was somehow forced by the shadowy forces of wokery to make the main character of its upcoming Assassin's Creed game pictured above a black samurai, contradicting historical evidence. This last claim was bolstered by the king of bad posters himself, Elon Musk, who replied to a tweet about this manufactured outrage with DEI kills art. And he's absolutely true. It does indeed kill art. I do find it interesting that she says it's contradicting historical evidence. She provides a link. Let's see. It's links to the Smithsonian website that was written in 2023. So I'm already kind of suspect on what we're actually going to get in here, and whether or not this actually says he was the first black samurai. I do think there is some historical question of that. I don't really think this is kind of evidence of him being a samurai, because I don't think there actually is any evidence of him being a samurai. It looks to be just like Netflix pushing the Cleopatra was black kind of thing too. But as far as Ubisoft embracing wokery, they definitely have. They have an entire section of their website titled Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility. We can look at it right here. This is on the Ubisoft website, Diversity, Inclusion, and Accessibility. You have their VP of Global Diversity and Inclusion, Rashi Sika, has this entire kind of memo here. Our vision of diversity and inclusion is multidimensional. That's why we've designed a strategy centered around 4 pillars: colleagues, culture, content, and community. For Ubisoft, putting diversity and inclusion at the heart of everything we do means providing an environment where employees can thrive, building open-minded communities where players can connect, and creating games that reflect the diversity of the world we live in. We will not accomplish all these goals overnight, just as it takes years of iteration to develop a AAA title. We will only become a more diverse and inclusive company by continuously improving. So right here, it says that diversity and inclusion are at the heart of everything that we do. So they have indeed been taken over by wokery, another lie by Kaysa McDonald. And if you even go in here to the colleague section, it says, we want to build the most creative, inclusive, and diverse teams across all fields. We will continue to increase representation in our company by building more inclusion across our systems and ensuring equal access to opportunities for everyone. That does indeed seem to indicate that they do have racial quotas that they're hiring people, because if you literally if you're requiring that you increase your representation, well, what does that mean? That looks like it is a quota. And equal access to opportunities for everyone. That's just kind of language they put in there to try and deflect from their first sentence, which literally, in my opinion, implies that they are indeed trying to have race-based quotas on the people that they hire. So that is on Ubisoft's website. They are indeed fully on board with wokery. So we got this part here. Assassin's Creed Shadows executive producer. I kind of already gone over that in a separate video. He basically just admits that Elon Musk broke him, and she's trying to, like, I guess, use this as like to attack Elon or whatever. I don't know. It doesn't really make any sense. And then she goes on. It's for the record. There's plenty of historical basis for the depiction of Black Samurai Yasuke in the game. We kind of already addressed that. Next, she goes on to talk about Black Myth Wukong. She says, just after Summer Game Fest finished, the Anti-Woke Gamers found a new target, a report at IGN, which credibly and comprehensively lays out a history of sexism as the developer of upcoming Planet of the Apes meets Sekiro action game Black Myth Wukong. I think if you're having to already crouch the defense of this report by describing it as credibly and comprehensively, I'm already calling it into question, because if you're defending it that hard with that kind of flowery language, one suspects that you yourself know that there probably is not credible, probably is not comprehensive. If you go and actually look at that article that IGN posts, there's a lot of anonymous sources. There's a lot of accusations made. There's a lot of people who are not even involved with Black Myth Wukong kind of describing their reaction to the game, and we have no idea who exactly they are. It's a lot of conjecture, a lot of hearsay, and at the end of the day, it just looks like an attack piece written by Rebecca Valentine and her colleague, who I'm going to blank on his name. So let's just click over here. I think it's like Ki Hoon Che or something like that. Yeah, Ki Hoon Chan is his name. So let's go back over here. But anyways, the response, surprise, was to go after the woman who wrote it while also spinning up a ludicrous conspiracy theory that IGN was blackmailing the developer. You can go down a rabbit hole of quite jaw-dropping horribleness on any one of these manufacturer controversies, but take it from me, it's really not worth it. Well, let's actually go into this right here. Obviously, I covered all the Ubisoft stuff. Oh, I didn't even cover this part. We have the whole memo that the Quartering posted here with Ubisoft too, where they say Ubisoft firmly stands for diversity and inclusion in our workplace and our games, and we believe there's no room for hate in gaming. And interestingly enough, their promotion of woke ideology, DI agendas is indeed hate, but they probably don't realize that. So as far as Black Myth Wukong here, their report has been questioned, specifically how the Chinese social media posts were translated. We have this clip here from Asmongold Clips that notes that Feng Ji, who is one of the co-founders of what is their creative science, I think is the Game Science. Game Science is the developer. He is one of the co-founders of Game Science, and the clip notes that his comment, which Rebecca Valentine and Chan used to attack him, is actually a used idiom in the Chinese language as a colloquial expression used humorously or sarcastically to describe a situation where excessive flattery or sycophancy has an overwhelming and paralyzing effect on someone. The use of such metaphors can be found in informal speech on social media. The video also alleges that the other posts were translated in the most uncharitable way possible in order to push the narrative that the developer and its employees and co-founders are sexist and misogynist. And then if you want to look at this idea that Game Science was being blackmailed, Niche Gamer reported on this, that there's this rumor from a Chinese journalist on social media platform Weibo. The outlet notes that the game is experiencing a harassment campaign from Western critics and journalists after rejecting offers from DEI consultants, and seems to stem from this post here from ex-user Pirate Nation. Does not really have anything really to do with IGN, except for the fact that they are part of kind of the extortion racket, I guess, is the implication, because they refused to pay $7 million. And so now there are hit pieces being run at places like IGN against the game in order to try and get them to pay. Again, that is a rumor. So then she goes on and says, this reactionary underlayer of gaming's enthusiast media, which makes its home mostly on X and YouTube, does not actually have the slightest impact on how games are made, or indeed which games are made. Look at Gamergate. What did it actually achieve? Games are more diverse than they were 10 years ago, not less. I saw more non-white male faces and characters in this year's spate of Summer Game Fest trailers and demos than at any previous time in the almost 20 years I've been covering games, but they can still make people's online lives hell for a while. I know this because I've been through it several times. So let's address that here as well. We scroll down right here. We just need to look at or ask former employees at Volition and Luminous Productions if their companies are still making games after they were shut down after Saints Row and Forspoken. If gamers do not have the slightest impact on how games are made, well, you don't have Volition or Luminous Productions making games at all anymore, because gamers refuse to buy their DEI woke ideology pushing games. So I'm pretty sure that gamers do indeed have an impact on how games are made, specifically when gaming studios are shut down after woke disasters. She then spends the next two paragraphs basically painting herself as a victim, making it all about her. Not really going to go over that here. It's just kind of boring. But then she says, it's tempting to dunk on these people endlessly, but outrage fuels outrage, especially now when there is literal money to be made posting inflammatory nonsense on X or YouTube. If Gamergate proved anything, it's that nobody has to pander to rage baiting toxic gamers or even listen to them. Yes, like I said, please ask Volition and Luminous Productions how that worked out for them. It didn't. They don't exist anymore. That said, I still don't think there's been enough public pushback against this flavor of online abuse from the biggest publishers and games over the past few months. Notice how she's saying it's online abuse. No examples, no evidence, nothing to actually show this. It's all just an opinion piece. It's all just hearsay. She doesn't provide any evidence at all. They never do. These people never provide any of this evidence. They just want you to swallow the narrative that they are pushing. Nevertheless, she goes on and says when in games over the past few months, when the consultancies they work with, the journalists and critics who cover them, and even some of their own developers have been caught in an online crap storm. Take it from me, vocal support means a lot. And as I said at the beginning of this video, I 100% agree with this. Please, please, developers and publishers, if you actually do oppose woke ideology, let us, or excuse me, if you do oppose gamers who oppose woke ideology, please let us know. Let us know that you actively hate us. Let us know that you are endorsing evil ideologies, that you are pushing evil agendas, that you are trying to brainwash people, and that is what your goal is. Please let us know that, so we can add you to the DEI detected websites, so we know that we can boycott you, so we know that we will not give money to people that hate us, and that we can see you go the way of Volition and Luminous Productions, and we can laugh about it all the way to the bank here on YouTube and X. Because at the end of the day, when you do this stuff, you are hurting yourself. So I hope they do it. I hope they do indeed do this stuff. This is absolutely fantastic advice. Despite all the lies that Kaysa McDonald spewed throughout her entire article, her actual conclusion, I 100% agree with, and I hope they do indeed do this so we know who indeed hates us. Those are my thoughts on this. Let me know in the comments below what you guys make of this. Let me know. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.